everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and we are here with another monthly reading wrap up, this time for the month of May. I read, let's see, I actually haven't done a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books in May. And I started a couple others, but I really had a weird month where I just had a lot of books going all at once. And so I feel like I wasn't finishing stuff very well. I just kept starting new books. So maybe I'm in a reading slump, I don't know. But I just kept like picking up new things and then I had a bunch of different stuff going. So hopefully in June I will kind of finish up some of those different books I've started and I can simplify it down just to a couple books at a time. But we'll just start at the beginning of the month. I started this month by picking up A Hero for Wondla. This is book 2 in the Wondla series trilogy by Tony DiTerlizzi. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really like this one. I feel like, if you don't know, this is like a middle grade dystopia book, I guess would be the best way to put it. It's kind of sci-fi too. There's like aliens. We're following like the last girl on Earth named Eva 9. And this book really builds out the world a lot bigger. Like you expand the map quite a bit. You introduce a lot of new issues that weren't really a thing in the original book. It's just a super fun series overall. I really love this series specifically. It's just such a like magical world, but it's not magic because it's sci-fi. So it's hard to explain, but really love the second book. I did end up going directly into the third book of the series, the trilogy, and finishing it off. This one's A Battle for Wondla. This book, the thing that mostly brings it down for me is you do lose some of the characters from the original book a little bit. So it kind of like you drop out from some of them. This book really brings them all back. I feel like it does a very good job of tying up every character story arc. You bring all those characters back. There's nobody that's like lost along the way. I gave this one 5 stars. It really is just such a fast-paced, great book. And the whole trilogy overall is just really fast, bingeable. They look pretty thick for kids books, but they are very large text with lots of spaces. You can't see that. Let me find a page that doesn't seem like it's gonna have spoilers. But like even like there's lots of pictures and then the text is large. It's really spaced out. So these aren't as long of books as they look like they are, but they are so good. They're so fast paced. Highly recommend this trilogy if you've never read it. Even if you're an adult, I still think they hold up really well and they're just so good. Okay, then after that I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This one's gotten very popular online. I read this one for my reading books out of my comfort zone. I've been hesitant to pick up cozy fantasy books because everybody's like, they're no plot, just vibes, and I love a good plot. But this one actually had a lot more going on than I thought it would. I also thought that it did a very good job of bringing in some really high stakes. The fairies are not like cute, happy little fairies. They're pretty intense. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I liked her characters. I loved the world that she built. I loved all of the like stern islanders that she ran into. I just thought it was really fun. I was very pleasantly surprised by this book and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I don't know that it was like a perfect book. There were a few things that still bugged me. The romance was a little bit more of a focus than I necessarily needed it to be, but I didn't like mind how they did it. It just wasn't like my absolute favorite. I definitely do plan on continuing this series. Okay, and then we have one that I read on the Kindle through Libby. This is Holy Terrors. I finally had it come in. I was waiting for this one for what felt like forever. Because the second book leaves off on quite the cliffhanger, but this is the third and final book in the Little Thieves trilogy by Margaret Owen. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite of the series. I still think that the first one is my favorite, but I did really enjoy this. I thought it was a good ending. It gets a little weird. Like, it definitely gets a little confusing. I think my biggest complaint about the series, or about this book, is that we introduced so many new characters and you're doing this whole like court intrigue plotline, which we did a little bit in the first book, but this one is definitely like the entire court system. Every royal ever has gathered into one place and there's murders happening, which is like such a fun premise and I thought it was super fun, but there were a lot of names and a lot of people that I was having a hard time being like, who is that? Like, I'm a little bit confused at who we're talking about right now. But really that's kind of my biggest complaint. They brought back some interesting things from the first book, which was kind of fun. Overall, it was a really good book. I thought they resolved a lot of the character arcs well. Her godmothers are a little bit more involved in parts of it. I do really like when they're involved. If you don't know the premise of this book, you're following this girl who's like the 13th child of a 13th child, and so they decide that she's bad luck and they go and basically give her to the gods of fortune and death, and they become her godmothers and raise her. And then you're following as she gets sent out on her own. And then you kind of follow this whole series. I think it does a really good job throughout the whole series about talking about her trauma, and there's probably a lot of trigger warnings you should be aware of with this book, so I would look those up beforehand. But I really like her character arc. I think it's handled really well. She develops as a character, but she also keeps her like core things. It's not one of those things where she kind of loses a lot of her personality in order to like heal or have a character arc. She keeps her personality and her wittiness and her spunkiness, but she still has character development throughout the book. So I think that that's really interesting to see. So overall, really love the series. You definitely could read the first one and just stop there. It's not like a cliffhanger, but once you read the second book, you do need to read the third book. Like, there's quite the cliffhanger. It leaves you quite the rough place. It gets really intense. I love these characters. I love the world. I love things based off of different types of folklore. This one's very rooted in like Eastern Europe, Russian type of folklore, which is just super fun. So that's the Little Thieves trilogy. I finally finished it. I loved it. I did not read the follow year or whatever it's called, where she like released a bunch of short stories on AO3. I have not read those. I don't feel like they were necessary. There is a bit of a time jump, but I personally didn't feel like it was that confusing. I felt like it was handled well. I've heard some people say that they feel like you need to read the follow year. I don't agree, but that's just my 2 cents. I haven't read it, so I don't know, but personally not having read it, I felt like the time jump was fine. I don't feel like it was super confusing. After that, I went back to my reading books out of my comfort zone video. I had taken a pause because I got that from Libby, so I needed to get it done. But the last book that I read in that video was White Sand by Brandon Sanderson. This one is a graphic novel. This is the first graphic novel that I like really remember reading. I've maybe read some before, but this is like really the first one I've read. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know how I feel about this story specifically as a graphic novel. I felt like high fantasy just didn't work super well. I felt like there was just so many things missing. It also ends off in a really weird place. Like, this is supposedly like 3 volumes altogether. Like, it normally would be divided up, but I don't know. I feel like it just left off on such a like, we didn't solve anything. Like, this very much so felt like a setup first book in a series. Brandon Sanderson is working on a novel version of this, which I would be very interested to read. I think I could like this storyline a lot more as a novel, and I'm very interested to see if he turns it into a series, because there is so much more that never got explained in this book that I would be very curious about. So I liked the plot, I liked the overall storyline, I think the art was really cool, but I definitely think that graphic novels, for me personally, lend themselves better to simpler stories potentially. I don't know. So I do definitely want to try another graphic novel and see, but this one was fine. I will definitely be reading the novel when it comes out because I'm curious to see if I like it more in that format. And then I read a really short, like 80-page little novella called The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. I read this one because last month I read The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, and that book was like good. It was a little underwhelming as far as like the horror aspect of it for me. But at the end in the author notes, she said that this book is the one that inspired her. She like latched onto one line, and that was like what she wrote this book off. I found it very interesting reading this because I feel like this one, there was way more overlap than some of her other retellings. Like, I feel like I've read quite a few retellings. One of the most recent ones I've read was A Sorceress Comes to Call, which is supposedly based off the Goose Girl, which also Little Thieves is based off of. And I feel like that one was very loosely attached to it. The Hollow Places almost feels like a sequel to The Willows. Like, reading this, it felt like it's the same world, just 2 different time periods. Like, there is so much overlap in it that it totally feels like a sequel. So when you're following The Willows, you're following these 2 guys who are on a boating trip. They're stopped to camp on this island, and they run into all of these creepy things, and it's basically this spot where the walls, the veil between 2 different worlds kind of is thinned, and you start to get all these spooky elements seeping through into our world through the Willows. and a lot of those elements come to play in Hollow Places, where basically they find a doorway completely into that other world. So it totally just feels like a sequel, like 100, 200 years later, whatever time The Willows is set in. Personally, I felt like The Willows did a little bit of a better job developing that suspense part of it, which is crazy because it's like an 80-page novella and The Hollow Places is a full book. I actually really enjoyed this short story. I thought it was a very good one. It'd be a perfect like spooky season read. I think it builds up just the perfect amount of spookiness and then ends and we move on. I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a really good solid one. I got it through Project Gutenberg, so just like the free PDF, and then I put it on the Kindle. So if you're interested in reading that one, you can get it free online. But that is The Willows. I thoroughly enjoyed it if you're looking for like a short 80-page horror book. And then the final book that I finished actually just last night is The Hobbit. This one was a reread. I have reread this a few times. I started it in that reading book, or in my like reading spring books, and I've just been slowly reading a little bit at a time right before I go to bed. This has been like my bedtime book. It's been really fun to read it as a bedtime story. I have this really cool illustrated edition. Let me see if I can find a picture. My in-laws gave this to me for my birthday, but it's got all of these really fun illustrations in it, and so that's been super fun to go and read through it, kind of as like a picture nighttime book. But I did finally finish it last night. 5 stars. I love The Hobbit. It's a classic for the reason. I've reread it several times for a reason. I don't love the other Lord of the Rings books as much. I need to try some that aren't like the main series, trilogy book, whatever we're calling it, or The Hobbit. That's all I've read, so I need to try some of the other ones, but I do love The Hobbit. If you haven't ever read it, please do. And that is everything that I read in May. So now we're going to talk about my June TBR. I have 1 more week left of school and then I am on summer break. So my TBR this month is highly ambitious and I'm hoping to read more books than this. Really, I just have so many books that I want to read that I'm just like, I've just got to commit and just read a lot. So I'm going to start with the books that I am in the middle of, because like I said, I am in the middle of several books at the moment. First up, my audiobook that I'm listening to right now is Howl's Moving Castle. I kind of haven't really been in a big audiobook mood. I've had a hard time like finding one that I wanted to read or listen to, and I just haven't had a lot of things going on lately that have allowed me to do them while listening to an audiobook. So I haven't been making very good progress. I'm literally like 2 chapters in. But I am currently listening to Howl's Moving Castle, so I would like to finish that one in June. Hopefully, now that I'm like, once I'm at home and stuff, I will have more time to listen to it. Life has just been really crazy. There's lots of things going on at the end of school, so I haven't had a lot of time to do audiobooks. So that one is the first one that is on my TBR. I would love to finish up that audiobook. And then I'm also in the middle of reading a collection of short stories. The next 4 books I'm going to show you are actually for a video that will hopefully come out not too soon after this, or not too long after this, but I'm reading a collection of short stories. This is The Metamorphosis and Other Stories by Franz Kafka. If you can guess what these next 4 books are, they're for a video. Let me know if you can guess what it is. But I am like 2 or 3 short stories in. I have just reached the point where I'm actually to The Metamorphosis. So I'm not very far, but I feel like when it comes to short story collections, I don't really like to sit down and read them back to back, which is part of the reason I've gotten into so many books at the moment, is because I like to just read a short story here or there while I'm reading other stuff. So I will slowly be working my way through, but I definitely want this done in the next couple weeks. And then the other book that I'm in the middle of, also for that video, is The General of the Dead Army by Ismail by Ismail Kadare. Not 100% sure on the pronunciation still. But this one is like a 20 years post World War II, an Italian general has been sent back to recover the bodies of the troops that died in the war in Albania. And so you're following him as he goes through this process of trying to find and document and identify the remains of all of these soldiers. And it's been very interesting so far. I'm like 76 pages in. I'm on chapter 8. So far, very fascinating book. I think this is a part of war we don't often have like hear about, is this whole, all of the after the fact, like we're 20 years after the war in this book and they're just barely getting back to try and dig up the bones of their soldiers and bring them home and bury them. So very interesting topic, and so far I'm liking the writing. So that one I definitely will be hopefully finishing soon. And then the other 2 books for that video are The Judgment of Richard Richter by Igor Stix, unsure. This one is one of those lit fic books that you read the back and I still don't really know how to explain what it's about. Basically you're following this guy. It's another one that's related to World War II, but after the fact, and he's finds his mother's notebook that she wrote during World War II with some kind of secret in it. I'm not sure what yet. And he goes on a quest to discover the truth, basically. So that's what this book is. And then the last book for that video is The Grey House. This one is chunky. It's by Mariam Petrosian. I definitely looked up how to say that a while ago, but I've forgotten. This one sounds really fun. It is huge, but it is about this group of people with basically physically disabled students live in this house. And the house is sentient, and people that are outside in like the surrounding area start to kind of get mad about this house and try to take it down, basically. And so you're kind of following that whole process as you have this sentient house and all these people. I think it's got a lot of commentary on it, but I'm very interested to see how this book is. It is definitely a thick one, but I'm really excited about it. So hopefully this will be happening most likely like that first week of my summer break will be devoted to reading this book. And then I have just a fun one that I've been wanting to read for a while, but I feel like summer is a good time to get to this one. This is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. This is the author of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is going to be my last full book that I need to read on his backlist. He only has 3. So there's 7.5 Deaths, and then there's The Devil in the Dark Water, which I think I read last year. Really good, loved that one. So I'm very interested. He comes up with the most fascinating concepts. They're all like fantasy mysteries, but they're like heavy on the mystery, less on the fantasy. Like you're not going to get a ton of world building explanations in these books. It's much more mystery, but with fantastical elements. So this one you're following this island, and the rest of the world has been destroyed by a fog that has just like swept the planet and killed anyone it touched. And you're following basically the last island where there are a bunch of researchers, and then all of a sudden one of the scientists gets killed, stabbed to death, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with their security system. It looks like they're on a really tight time frame to try and figure out what happened before the fog gets past the security system and kills them all. So very fascinated to see where he goes with this one. They're so crazy. I am a little sad that I will be done with his last book. I have been doing some scouring of the internet and I have not seen that he's announced a new book yet. So I've kind of been dragging my feet on this one just a little bit because I don't want it to be done with all of his books. I do have one. He wrote like, he came together with a bunch of authors and they all wrote like little Christmas horror short stories, I think is what it is. So maybe I'll pick that up in Christmas, but then I'll be done with everything that Stuart Turton has written. So I definitely need more from him. He's definitely up there in my favorite authors. Also, The Lighthouse on the Edge of this is just so good. Really excited for this one. This will be my quick, I'm assuming I'm going to need something that's just a fast read after getting through this. So this will probably be what I pick up. And then, like I said, this is a very ambitious TBR for the month because I have one more very big book. I'm going to finally get to Words of Radiance. My husband has been bugging me about this. I read Way of Kings last March, so it's been over a year since I read that one. And I definitely need to get to this one before I 100% don't remember anything about that book. I feel like I still have a decent memory of kind of what happened. Character names are a little hard for me to come up with, so we'll see. This one is obviously a very thick book. It is 1,080 pages, so definitely a chunky one. I do love to be able to say I've read a book over 1,000 pages every year, so this will be my book for this year. Excited for this one. I have another video I did that I want to do hopefully this month that, well, I guess that doesn't need to be a surprise. I'm hoping to do like the husband picks my books. My husband is a big reader, so I'm very interested to see what he comes up with for me, but I want to get this one out of the way so that he can't choose this one because I want it to be a surprise. Because I know if I haven't read this one yet, he's going to pick this book. So I want to finish this before I do that video so that he has to surprise me and doesn't just pick a book I already know he was going to pick for me. So that's why I'm reading this one like in June. This is like, I'm set on getting this one done soon so that I can do that video I did. I'm so curious to see what he picks because he's definitely, we overlap a lot, but he's a much more like narrow set of genres that he reads from. I read kind of from everything, so I'm curious to see what he's gonna pick for me, but I want it to be a surprise, so I'm reading this before I do that video. But that's my TBR for the month. Like I said, very ambitious. I also have a few books on Libby that I'm waiting to come through. One of which may come through hopefully this month. We'll see. It's only like got a 4-week wait. So should we just go through my Libby Holds really quick? The one that I think may come through this month is the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association. This one just sounds funny. We were going through Barnes & Noble the other day and we saw this one and I was like, that's hilarious. So I put it on Notify Me. I think it just barely came out. I think it's a pretty new book, but I managed to get in pretty quick in line. So I'm second in line at the moment. It's estimating about 4 weeks. We'll see if it comes through this month. That one sounds pretty funny. I think it's about this mom whose kid gets bitten by a werewolf, and so now she's trying to adjust to all of the things in the magical world and a new school and stuff like that. And then the other one that may potentially come through this month, we'll see. It's estimating 6 weeks, but I feel like sometimes they come through quicker than that, is All of Us Villains. This one is one that I've seen Carrie talk about. It seems kind of like a mystery book. I don't think, is there fantasy? Maybe there is magic. No, okay, I'm getting these confused with another one. Yeah, it's like a tournament magic something book. I don't know a ton about it, but I've got it on hold. And then my like long-term ones that will come through eventually. I'm 11th in line for Belladonna, which is one that's really popular. I am 8th in line for Arch Enemies by Marissa Myers. I read Renegades like a long time ago, but I figured I should finally go finish the series. So I got that one on hold. I'm 11th in line for Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I am 12th in line for Supernova, which is the 3rd book in the Renegade series. So I just went ahead and put them both on hold so I could just bust the series out, hopefully not too far across. I'm 23rd in line for I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. I've been waiting for that one since the beginning of the year. I've also got Jade City, The Unmaking of June Farrow, and Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Those are all like long. We'll see when they come out or when I finally get them type of books. But that's what's on my Libby on hold. I have a bunch of books that I'm just like waiting to have more holds in order to put them there. So hopefully my couple that are not so long will come through soon so that I can get some of these other books. But I have so many books I want to read that I just need to really read a lot this summer. So I'm very excited for summer break, if you can't tell, to just bust through a whole bunch of books. But that is the end of this video. Let me know what's on your TBR for June, what books you read, what's your favorite book you read in May. I obviously don't need to add more books to my TBR, but I always am willing to. So if you've got any really good ones, let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.